Ghost of Popcorn Hill, Chapter 3. When they parked in front of the Humane Society, Martin felt as if it were Christmas and his birthday rolled into one. Too excited to talk, he and Peter followed their father into the office and then through another door. Big barks and little ones greeted them. Right this way, the caretaker said. The dogs are on this aisle and the cats are on the next one. We want a dog, Peter said, a great big one. Mr. Tracy shook his head. Not a big one, he said firmly. We just want a nice dog that'll be fun to have around the house. Gotcha, the caretaker said. He pointed at a tiny gray dog with long ears and a short stand-up tail. There's a lively little guy. The gray dog yipped and jumped against the wire netting. Martin bit his lip. He felt sorry for the dog, but he didn't want to take him home. I think maybe he's a bit too small, Mr. Tracy said. What do you think, boys? Martin nodded. Peter had already moved to the next pen. His eyes were as round as marbles. Daddy, here he is. Here's our dog. They gathered behind Peter and stared into the cage. A silver-coated German shepherd stared back at them. Oh, wow, Martin breathed. He's perfect. He could picture the huge dog pulling their wagon and walking with them to school. Everyone would want to pet him, but they wouldn't dare until Martin or Peter said it was all right. He's not perfect, Mr. Tracy said, and don't try to gang up on me, because it won't do any good. We don't have room for a dog this size, and we certainly can't afford to feed him. He was smiling, but there was a note in his voice that warned the boys not to argue. They walked on past a little brown and white spotted dog with a twisty tail and a long, low mop of a dog that lay fast asleep. Next was a Labrador, the caretaker said, a real beauty. Wow, Peter breathed. The gleaming black dog was as big as a pony. Don't even ask, Mr. Tracy said. The caretaker patted Peter's head. Wait till you see what we have in the last pen, he said cheerfully. You'll love her. The last dog in the last pen was black too, with lots of white patches. Her feathery tail swept back and forth, and she pressed her freckled nose against the netting. She's a honey, the caretaker told them. He looked from Martin to Peter. She's only about 10 months old, just right for training. Then he turned to Mr. Tracy. Won't get much bigger than she is right now. Nobody spoke. The caretaker opened the door and let the dog out into the aisle. She danced around Martin and Peter with excited little barks. What do you say, boys? Their father asked. She looks as if she'd be happy to join the family. Martin and Peter crouched. The dog licked their faces. Then she sat in front of them and cocked her head. I'll call her Rosie, the caretaker said. My daughter Rose has freckles like that. Of course, you could call her anything you wanted. Martin and Peter and Rosie looked at each other. She's a nice enough little dog, Martin thought. He knew Peter was thinking the same thing, and if they didn't take this dog, they weren't going to get one. Hey, Rosie, Martin said. Do you want to ride in the truck? Rosie leapt into the air like a missile. She jumped on Martin and then on Peter, knocking him over. Her body trembled with excitement. I think you've got a dog, the caretaker said with a grin. He led the way back to the office and the Tracys followed with Rosie bouncing beside him. Good girl, Martin told her. She really was a nice dog. He and Peter took turns petting her as they walked. They were careful not to look into the pens where the black Labrador and German Shepherd were, still waiting for someone to claim them.